Welcome to the Deep Dive. This is where we take the sources you send us, dig through them, and pull out those key bits of knowledge, those aha moments.
That's right. Quick insights, but deep understanding.
And today, wow, we've got something really special. It's a huge, monumental Iranian painting. It depicts the Battle of Karbala.
An absolutely pivotal event.
Exactly. And you, our listener, gave us some great material descriptions from the Met Museum, World History Encyclopedia, articles on coffee shop painting, Iranian coffee house culture, even info from an auction house. A real mix.
So, quite a bit to unpack there.
Definitely. Our goal is to explore this painting's history, its connection to this really interesting time in Iran, the coffee house era, its symbolism, which is pretty powerful, and why it's such a rare piece in the Muslim world.
And we'll do it in a way that's engaging, not overwhelming. It's a rich subject.
It really is. Okay, let's dive into this canvas. Where do we start?
Well, I think what's key right away is realizing this isn't just a picture hanging on a wall. It was, a storytelling device. And to get that, we really need to understand the story it tells, which means starting with the Battle of Karbala itself back in 680 AD.
Right, the history bit. So the World History Encyclopedia describes it as, well, maybe not a massive battle in terms of numbers. It happened in Iraq, near the Euphrates.
Relatively small scale, militarily speaking, yes.
But the impact was huge because of who was involved. It was Husayn ibn Ali, Prophet Muhammad's grandson, Ali's son, and his followers.
Hugely significant figures.
And they were massively outnumbered, tragically, by the forces of the Umayyad Caliph, Yazid. And, well, they were defeated. Husayn and his family martyred. A devastating event.
Absolutely devastating. And its importance goes way beyond the battlefield. It's this narrative of sacrifice, standing up against tyranny. That's what really resonates, especially in Shi'a belief. As the sources point out, Imam Husayn's martyrdom is just central to Shia's history. It was a major reason for opposition to the Umayyads.
And it's still deeply felt today, isn't it? Commemorated every year during Ashura.
Yes, with intense mourning, particularly by Shia Muslims. It's worth noting, though, as one source mentions, Sunni Muslims also hold Husayn in very high regard. They respect his courage, his steadfastness.
Right.
But the specific tradition of public mourning is more distinctly Shia.
Okay, so we have this incredibly significant event, historically and religiously. How does that get translated into these, well, massive paintings? The Met description calls them pardes, or coffee house paintings.
Yeah, and that's where it gets fascinating. They weren't meant for quiet contemplation in a gallery. No, they were active tools, visual aids for live storytelling. Think portable murals.
Yeah.
The sources talk about a parde d'art. That's the reciter, the storyteller. This person would travel with the canvas. They'd set it up in public spaces, caravanserais, religious places called takis.
Okay, see.
But crucially, also in coffee houses. That was a key venue. And the reciter would literally point to different scenes on the painting while telling the story of Karbala, the martyrdom of Husayn.
Wow, so it's like multimedia storytelling, 19th century style.
Exactly. Oral narration plus this powerful visual backdrop.
And the goal was emotional impact.
Yeah.
The Met says it was meant to make the audience feel the suffering, the sorrow of Husayn and his followers.
Deeply emotional, yes. To create empathy, a connection to the tragedy.
How would they do that, the storyteller, just pointing and talking?
Oh, I think it would have been much more than that. We can imagine, dramatic voice modulation, maybe chanting, poetry, possibly even some musical accompaniment. The painting provides the visual cues.
And the performer brings it to life.
Precisely. Highlighting the suffering figures, the harsh landscape shown in the painting, making that visual connection really hit home for the audience.
Which, as you said, brings us to the coffee houses themselves. The articles from Karun and Elephant really shine a light here. It sounds like Iranian coffee houses going way back to the Safavid era, 16th century. They were much more than just coffee shops.
Oh, absolutely. They were central social hubs, especially for, the working and middle classes.
Places to meet, talk, argue about things.
Discuss politics, share news, get entertained. And storytelling, naqali, and poetry reading were huge parts of that entertainment, really central.
Right, and that's where these giant paintings came in. The Karun article says that as storytelling became popular in coffee houses, artists started making these big canvases specifically for those performances.
Exactly. Visual aids for the stories, especially the big epic ones like from the Shahnameh and the Book of Kings, but also, crucially, religious narratives like Karbala.
So the art directly served the performance in that social space.
Correct. And the Elephant article adds a nice touch saying storytelling might be the oldest public performance in Iran, often done by travelers sharing tales. The layout of coffee houses often suited these performances perfectly.
Like a natural stage?
Sort of, yeah. And then later on, late 19th century, the auction house info mentions royal patronage for artists was declining.
Oh.
So coffee houses became even more important for artists, a place to actually earn a living, find audiences, get inspiration.
Which is why the style gets called coffee house painting. Makes sense.
It's directly tied to that environment. They weren't just decoration, they were functional. You'd see them in coffee houses, tea houses, also Hosseina's congregation halls, and tekkiz, which are mourning houses.
So really embedded in the social and religious life.
Deeply.
Okay, let's shift focus a bit to the paintings themselves. The symbolism, what's going on visually. The Met description gives some really vivid examples.
It does. It talks about a common central scene, often featuring a boss. He was Hussein's half-brother, the standard bearer.
Right.
And he's usually shown on a white horse in this really fierce battle with one of Yazid's soldiers. And that enemy figure, often depicted as grotesque.
Grotesque how?
Well, the Met specifically mentions sometimes having a phallic-shaped tongue.
Wow, okay. That's striking. What's the message there?
It's pretty direct, isn't it? It's symbolic shorthand for evil, for moral corruption. It instantly tells the viewer, this is the bad guy, in a very visceral way.
Creates a stark contrast with the heroic figures.
Exactly. And that contrast is reinforced elsewhere. The Met points out this juxtaposition you often see, paradise up in the top right with Hussein and his followers.
A good ending.
Right. And then below, the underworld with Yazid's supporters getting their just deserts.
And those depictions can be quite graphic, it sounds like. The Met mentions Hussein's murderer being eaten by an octopus-like creature in hell.
Yeah, really vivid stuff. It's about divine retribution. Unambiguous, making the moral lesson crystal clear and hitting that emotional chord.
So the core message is this fundamental conflict. Good versus evil, justice versus tyranny.
Absolutely, that's the bedrock. But it's not just abstract. We also see these very human moments of suffering. Hussein saying goodbye, holding his thirsty baby son, Ali Asghar, comforting the wounded Qasim.
Those personal moments.
Crucial for humanizing the figures, making the tragedy relatable, amplifying the sense of loss.
And what about the style? The Met notes mention lots of detail, metallic paints, this kind of flat, two-dimensional look, a bit like old manuscript pictures.
That's a good comparison. Yeah, it's not aiming for photographic realism. It's often quite decorative, even when showing violence.
Why that specific style, do you think?
Well, think about the setting. A bustling coffee house, maybe dimly lit. You need clarity. Bold lines, flat perspective, recognizable figures. It helps the storyteller point things out, helps the audience follow along instantly.
Practical considerations?
Partly, yes. It's about conveying the narrative and the symbols clearly. Plus, the details, the metallic bits, would add visual appeal in that setting. And linking it to the manuscript tradition gives it a kind of historical weight, connects it to a respected artistic lineage in Persia.
It really does sound like a unique art form, born from this specific culture and time. Which leads to the next point. Why are these paintings considered so rare and important, especially in the wider Muslim world?
Well, the Met is quite clear on this. Monumental canvases like this, specifically showing Karbala, are extremely rare outside Iran.
Really? Only few known.
Only a handful, apparently, in museums and private collections, which just highlights how significant they are culturally and religiously, especially within the Shi'i tradition.
Because Karbala is so foundational for Shi'a identity.
Exactly. These paintings are incredibly potent visual representations of that central story. They're invaluable artifacts, historically and religiously.
And the Met also connects them to the Tazia plays, the traditional Iranian passion plays about Karbala.
Right, which suggests these paintings weren't just isolated objects. They were part of a larger ecosystem of commemoration.
Visual art and dramatic performance working together.
Precisely, both serving to keep the memory, the story, the lessons of Karbala alive. And remember, as the World History Encyclopedia points out, Hussein's martyrdom had lasting consequences. It fueled opposition to the Umayyads. It's central to Shi'ism. But even beyond that, Hussein is respected in Sunni Islam too, as a symbol of courage against injustice. So while this specific art form, the coffeehouse painting, is very Iranian and tied to Shi'i practice,
the underlying story resonates more broadly.
Exactly, which makes these rare surviving paintings incredibly important for understanding religious and cultural history across different Islamic traditions, not just one.
Okay, so let's pull these threads together. We've seen this painting is, well, so much more than just a painting. It's history on canvas. depicting a crucial event. It was a vital part of that unique coffeehouse culture, acting as a visual aid for storytellers.
A dynamic tool, not a static object.
Packed with symbolism, good versus evil, suffering, divine justice.
Very direct visual language.
And finally, it's a rare and incredibly significant piece of art, especially important for Shia Muslims, but with echoes across the wider Muslim world.
That sums it up well. It's a convergence of art, history, religion, and social life.
So maybe a final thought for you, listening. Think about that power, the power of visual stories combined with shared social spaces, like those old Iranian coffee houses. How did that combination shape understanding, shape emotional connections to history and faith?
Yeah, and maybe consider how our modern media, our modern gathering places, do they create the same kind of deep, lasting impact? How do we connect with our big stories today?
Something to think about. Perhaps it sparks some curiosity to look more into narrative painting for the fascinating history of coffeehouse culture in Iran or even elsewhere.
Definitely worth exploring further.